Hello guys, this is a new chapter about graphical user interfaces in Java. So we will learn how to create a graphical interface using Java. We will follow a tutorial that is provided in the Java documentation, and you can find the link in the Oracle website. We will give you the link in the UVT website. You should first know that in Java there are two known APIs for graphical interfaces. There is the AWT, which is the old API, and there is the Swing API, which is the one that we're gonna use in this tutorial. So we will try to create an application that looks like this one. It's a temperature converter. The user will enter a temperature here, and by clicking on this button it will be converted from Celsius to Fahrenheit. NetBeans offers a graphical user interface builder which makes user interface creation very simple, and you will see it's just dragging and dropping some elements in order to design your interface. So let's start a new project. So we go File, New Project, as we do usually, Java Application, go to Next, give it a name. Let's say it will be Celsius Converter Project. And here, make sure that this checkbox is not checked. We don't need to generate the main class automatically because the main will be embedded inside the GFrame that we're gonna generate later. And then click Finish. So you will have this project. Let me set it as the main project. So inside the source code, the default package, we will try now to create a new GFrame. Okay, so choose here new GFrame form, and we will name it, for example, source converter. Okay, then click Finish. So here is the GFrame that is generated. You will have on the right side the palette, which contains all the Swing components. So you can here see, for example, that we have labels, buttons, radio buttons, combo box, list, etc., which are pre-built components that we can just drag and drop inside our GFrame. You have another window for the GFrame properties. So for each component of the GFrame, we can set its properties using this window. Also, we have the GFrame navigator, or what we call inspector sometimes, so in which you will find what are the components of the GFrame. So for now, the GFrame is just an empty one. We don't have any elements inside it. Let's try to run the application to understand what does it mean a GFrame. So if we run it, okay, it doesn't have a main, it doesn't matter. You will have something like this. So this is our main window, which is the GFrame, and it has these buttons which are for closing or minimizing the window. So in order to create any Java application containing a graphical user interface, there are usually two phases. The first one, you need to prepare the design of your graphical user interface so that you can define what are the text fields that you want to include, how many buttons do you have, etc. And then you will implement the logic behind this interface. So let's start with the design phase. First, we should note here that there are two tabs offered in NetBeans. The first one is the design, and the second one is the source. So this is the source code that is behind this G-frame. And here you can see that there is a certain generated code that we cannot manage. It's generated automatically. We cannot change here. I'm not allowed to add any statement in this part. So it generates actually automatically a method called init components in which the G-frame will be created and all the properties setting the layout of the G-frame are included in this method. So for example, here you can see that the size of the window is set here. And later on, where we're gonna add more elements to our G-frame, the code will be inserted automatically in this method. Okay, so now we will start by adding some elements to our G-frame. We want to create, as we said, this application. So we will add first text field, then a button, then two labels. Okay, so we will add first gtext field here, then we will add a glabel on the right side, then we will add the button, and finally the last label. So you just drag and drop the different elements. After that, we will try to set the text of each element. So for the text field, we need to erase this extra text that is the default text that is written there. Don't worry about the size, we will set it later. For the button, it will be named convert. So you can set it here. For the labels, the first one is called Celsius. And the second one is called Fahrenheit. Then, in order to set the size of the first gtext field and the button to be the same size, so select both elements, then right-click and go to same size and same width. You can do also the same thing for same height so that they will have the same height. After completing the design of the interface, you should assign some variables to each field. So each field or each element from our graphical user interface should have a variable name assigned to it. It does have here a variable, but this is the default name, so we should change it so that we have meaningful names. So you go to the navigator window here, and if you don't have this window, you can just go to window and you activate this window, or even for the properties or the palette if you don't have it, so you can manage it from the window upper menu there. So in the navigator, you have the different components inside the G-frame. You can, for example, change the title in your G-frame. Sorry if I'm having the properties window here that is not displayed well. So you can give it a title here. For example, it would be a converter or any other title that you want. So let's give a different variable name. So, for example, this is for the first field. The second one will be as follow. Change the variable name, success label, and then convert button for the button here. And finally, the last one would be Fahrenheit label. When the end user will interact with our graphical user interface later, this will generate a special kind of object called event object. For example, the event can be clicking a button or modifying text in a text field or moving your mouse over a certain area. So there are different events in Java that can be handled and triggered. For example, for our button here, if we want to add some code behind it when the user will click on this button, we need to go like this. So you will right click and go to events, action, and action performed. The same thing can be done by double clicking in this button. Okay, so by double clicking or going to action performed, you will find yourself in an empty method in which you will write the code that will be run if we click on the button convert. So let's copy and paste the code that is proposed in the tutorial. So let's read the code together. First of all, the first statement, we are trying to get the content of the text field, the first text field, which is this one. So we're trying to get the content that was entered by the user. Temp text field is the name of variable that we have assigned to this text field, and get text, this is a method, a pre-built one that is used in order to get the text inside any element in the swing. It can be a label or a text field or text area and others. The get text returns a string. So in order to be able to use it in this formula, we need to parse it as a double to do the computation, and then we will cast it to an integer and assign it to this variable, which is temp Fahrenheit. By the end, the result will be displayed in this field. So we will set the text of this label. This is why here we are calling the method setText and using the variable name that was assigned to this label. And we will simply display the final value that was computed and this text. So let's run the code to see if it's working well or not. Just run. Wait for a few seconds. Okay, so we can write any value here and then click on convert, and you will have the result working by the end.